Good morning. It's time for the morning car chat, and I'm a little bit not feeling it right now, but I figured I need to be consistent, right? So I am Cindy. Thank you for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. And this is my morning car chat, and I'm a teacher, I'm a mom, a grandma, and I'm also a New Hampshire state representative. And tomorrow we'll be going to the state house. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that today because a lot of people get turned off because you say that and then they think, oh, you're in politics. I don't want to talk to you. But why would I get into this if I'm a mom and a grandma and a teacher and don't I have plenty of other things to do besides go to Concord every Thursday and, for $100 per year? And what is my motivation? Why would I be doing this? And I just want to say I've always loved my country. I've always felt like I live in the best country in the world. I'm thankful for the opportunities. Like some people, they can, work so hard to become a millionaire or a billionaire or whatever. They can, you can make a job out of anything in America. And, I was a mom. I stayed home and I raised my children at home. I had 13 children, which is not a moneymaker, but it was also something I wanted to live out. Like I didn't expect to have 13 kids, but I wanted to live for God and I wanted to, do what I believe. I wanted to have faith in God. And that trickles down in many different ways. And sometimes I'll talk to my students and say, whatever God gives you to do, you do it 100% with everything you have. If you're supposed to take out the trash, you take out the trash. With a good spirit and do it right and get it all done. If you're supposed to do math, do math, even though you don't like it. There might be a reason why you are doing math today. God has a plan for you in the future. If God gives you the opportunity to help a neighbor, you help a neighbor. Whatever God gives you to do, you do it with all your heart. Some people, they get the calling to go to a foreign country, and that takes a lot of work. I've known people that have quit their jobs and become a missionary to go to a foreign country away from their family, and they have a calling. And so, maybe being a New Hampshire state rep is a calling, and maybe that's what God called me to in the midst of doing all these other things. But, when I've always loved my government. Well, not the government necessarily, but the founding of this country, America, has a great history, and a lot of people who died to keep this country free. And I found that we have a lot of restrictions, and when we went through restrictions in the last 5 years, I was really surprised at the restrictions people were willing to live with in this country. And I felt like I wanted to step up and I wanted to be the voice of reason. And I wanted to help people see that in order to be free, we have to stand up for our freedoms. And so that's what I started to do. And I went to the meetings in my town. I went to school board meetings, and it was interesting because I got to know my town better and how my town works, but I also got to know the people in it better. I got to know the people that were really giving a lot of their time and effort to the town and how it runs. And, there were some people that were making decisions that I didn't think were right, and a few other people didn't think they were right. And we stepped up and we decided that we were going to be part of the solution, part of the change that needed to be made. And it's hard sometimes to stand up and still be respectful to others because just because I believe one way doesn't mean everybody else is going to be like, oh, yeah, thank you for telling me that. I'm going to change my mind. People do what they believe in every direction. And so we have to figure out how to talk about these things. And I think a lot of us have been silenced. We've been told this is just the way it is. This is how we have to accept things like parental rights. We have to accept that, parents don't have the rights that they used to have. I'm not going to accept that. So we're going to have to stand up and make a difference. And so politics is not trying to lie to people and get what I want. That is not politics. It should not be that I am trying to get something for myself. It should not be that I am making decisions for the best of my world personally, but for this, my desire is to do what would keep children safe and that kids would be able to grow up in this country as innocent as possible, as long as possible, and that adults would give of themselves to protect the children. That was my highest motivation. Also, I spent all these years raising a family, and now my adult children have to navigate some of the crazy things that I never even dreamed would be part of our country right now. And so those are my motivations, not to be a politician, but to be a voice of reason. And in New Hampshire, we have 400 state representatives, and a lot of people don't want to do this job, or they can't do this job. I've been fortunate that my school is a private school, and they have accommodated me to be able to go to the State House on Thursdays. And I was told at first it was going to be 10 Thursdays, that I would just go up, do the votes, and I would be done. But it's been more than that. It's also been a few other days. It's been a lot of outside reading. It's been a lot of listening to debates, looking at both sides of every situation, and really trying to come up with the answer that I can say in my own conscience, I can vote for that. And I also believe that this is what my constituents want. So it's a very sobering type job. It's fun. I really do enjoy it. I love going up to Concord, which is our state capital. We meet in the oldest building in the country. And our legislature is the largest of its kind in our country. I think it's the second largest in the world of this type of legislature where people are basically volunteers and they come in and they do a lot of work. A lot of people do much more work than I do, and I'm so thankful for them. We are standing up for the children mostly, and we want parents to keep their rights. America was founded on the desire for freedom to have their own religion, freedom to practice their religion, and to raise their family and teach their children as they see fit. Years ago, let's see, this would probably be 35 years ago or so, when I was a young parent, we had moved from Wisconsin to Massachusetts, where my in-laws lived. And we lived in a very beautiful town outside of Boston. And I had gone to college for math education. I had studied a whole course on education and the history of education in America. And I thought, oh my goodness, I bet you this library has some of the oldest books. And I would love to see what the oldest books have to say about the history of education. So I went down to the library and I looked for the oldest books I could find on the history of education. And I saw, and this is before phones, before I could take pictures of it, and probably those books are still there, I hope they are. But I found that the history of education in Massachusetts was uh, was started, and the motivation was to teach children how to read the Bible. Imagine that. I don't know the year. I can't remember the year of this book that I was reading, but it was amazing to be in Massachusetts, which even 35 years ago was getting away from this truth. I mean, we had taken prayer out of school the year I was born, 1963. We took prayer out. We made the Bible seem like it's, not good for people to read, and, it's a dangerous book and everything else. But the history in our country of the public school is that the parents wanted kids to read the Bible. And I saw that in a public library, in a history book about education. So that was confirmation for me that, we have a good history. We have In God We Trust on our money. We have Pledge to the Flag, one nation under God. And so we have in the very fabric of our country that we know there is a divine power, God who created us, who wants us to know Him and wants us to learn about Him. And when we do, our country is a better country. The more we get away from God, the more mixed up and random humanity becomes. And it doesn't get better. The things that people think of only get worse and worse. And that is proven throughout history. So I became a New Hampshire state rep. It is amazing to go into the I can't remember the names of all of the reps hall, I think it's called, of all the buildings, all the rooms they have. It's just unbelievable. You walk up the granite stairs to go in, and there's the doors there, and to have my name tag and my own spot in the state house is just it's just surreal, as they say. I love it, and we don't get paid a lot, and sometimes we joke about that, but it's also like it shows the commitment to do it regardless of what I'm going to get out of it. I do it for a purpose, and I do it to preserve freedom for ourselves and our posterity. So it's an amazing job. I love it. I did miss the last session because I went to my daughter's graduation in South Carolina, and that was on Friday. And it was Friday morning, so it wasn't really any way for me to get down there by plane. So I didn't really want to miss that session, but I did have to put family first, and it's probably going to bite me because, now my voting score is down because I wasn't there. But, things happen, and, in my family, I have 13 children, and one has gone on to be with the Lord, and I am not going to, um, make anything other than my family a priority. Push comes to shove, I'm going to put them first. So that's what happened, and God's in control of all of that. He knows my heart. He knows why I'm there. He put me there, basically. He put me where I'm at. He put me at my school, and he put me in the state house. The erasing of all history in the school systems are here in Oklahoma. Yeah, so that's one reason why I hate to get rid of books, because, that's what's happening in our libraries and our schools, is they're getting rid of the older books. So people, they don't realize that we're erasing history, and then people rewrite history and make, history sound worse, or, there are some bad things in history, and there are things about bad things happening right now, but the Bible's still true. God is greater than all of these things, and God, it's a miracle that we are on this planet, that we're still breathing. and that we can still talk. And, as many problems as we have in the United States, um, we still have the best country. And what is the answer to our problems? For the people to wake up and do what's right. The Bible's clear about that. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, then will I hear from heaven, and I will forgive them and heal their land. And God, I don't know if He's going to heal the entire country of America. I would love to see revival. I would love to see more people just, praising God's name and getting right with Him. I'd love to see. In New Hampshire right now, they're so excited about building more and more and more casinos so that people can gamble. And it's like, how much money do people have to throw away? Oh, that's right, you get money back. You get money back. That's why they gamble. But in the long run, I think it's pretty clear that people spend more money than they get. And so, what if we all have revival and those casinos are closed and the bars are closed and everybody just goes to church and everybody just says, "You need what I have here. I've got extra food in my pantry. You can have it. Hey, I have extra clothes. You can have them. I have an extra car. You can have it." What if everybody is just giving of themselves and stopping all of these sinful behaviors? What a difference our lives could be, right? And we think, oh, that'll never happen. Well, it just might. It just might. So yeah, my hearts and prayers go out to the people in the Midwest who are experiencing terrible weather. And I'm sure most people think, oh, that would never happen. That's why they built the house. We're not gonna have a problem. We're gonna build a house right here. And then, bam, there's a terrible storm. And what happens when there's a terrible storm? People have to come together and help each other. And sometimes that's the best part of the story, is how God works in the middle of the storm. I saw a story just this morning of a poor woman who she was in the house, she went to get her child, and the tornado struck, and she was just thrown, and she couldn't get her child. And it turned out that she was okay. After the storm, she found her child. He was okay, and they made it through. And that is a miracle. So God is still doing miracles, and I'm thankful for how He is doing miracles for us. And then the more people talk about the troubles in this world, the more I realize, number one, we need God. God is the answer, not man's amazing ideas. But we get back to God's word. And then how about we, first thing, we have the national anthem. Usually it's a kid or a kid group. Sometimes it's an adult. We heard some amazing soloists, and I remember we had one group that was a ladies group, and they did an amazing rendition of the Star Spangled Banner. Lots of different parts in their harmony and everything. It was really gorgeous. And that's really an awesome time to just stand there and just take in those moments of awesomeness. And then we have prayer. Usually it's somebody from in Concord. And I kind of pray to myself during that time that God would help me to make the right decisions, that God would help others, and that whatever we decide is what the Lord wants for us. And then we do our votes, and we do our votes by we follow the Speaker of the House. He tells us when to vote, and sometimes we do a voice vote. It'll be just yelling out "aye," and whichever yeses or nos are the loudest, they win. Sometimes we do division vote, where we're just voting by whichever number comes up higher, the yeses or the nos, that wins, and it's not on your record. And then sometimes we do roll call, and roll call is when you know that this is going to go down on your record as a state representative and you're voting. And that's the bummer of me missing that one day, because it looks like it's obvious that I wasn't there and I didn't vote that day, so my scores will go down on everybody who's keeping score. But the roll call is used later if you want to check somebody's voting record, if you want to vote for them or not. So then you'll be able to know how they vote, and you can ask them questions too, like why did you vote this way, and what do you think about this or that. So that's my story about the State House, and thank you so much for coming to this video. It's a little bit overcast today. I'm wearing my little coat here. It's a little bit on the chilly side, a little cooler this week than it has been, and this is our last full week of school. Then next week we have exam week, and then we are out for the year at our school. So we're winding down and making plans for the summer is what I'm doing as well. And for the summer, I'll be doing, I'm on some boards in town, and I also have some tutoring businesses going and doing some traveling as well. So we'll try and keep all of those balls juggling, and we'll see what happens. And thank you so much for coming, and I hope you have a great day.